Thank you so much for joining us for Mastering Applied Epic Reports Part 1. We are glad you are joining us today and excited to be sharing today's content. For those of you joining us for the first time who are not sure what Kite Technology is all about, we are a managed IT service provider and consulting firm serving independent insurance agencies and other businesses across the country. We've been around for more than 30 years now, and what sets Kite Tech apart from the other IT providers is our expertise within the insurance industry. Many of our staff have previous backgrounds working in insurance, giving us that extra insight on what agencies today require to operate at a high level. We find that many agencies underutilize Applied Epic and don't often take advantage of many of the features that it offers. Our agency consulting team focuses on helping agencies use Epic more effectively so they can get the most from their investment and improve their agency performance. Also listed here are some of the IT services we offer. If you'd like to learn more about our IT or consulting services, please send us a message through our Q&A panel and we'll be sure to reach out to you. Now, I'm going to introduce myself and Jenny as the presenters today. My name is Lauren Roberts. I'm the Director of Agency Consulting here at Kite Technology Group. I've been with the consulting team since almost the beginning. I've been working in Epic migrations, optimization. I do a lot in accounting as well, which not everyone enjoys as much as I do. We work with agencies on standardizing workflows. We help train agencies on, again, how to create those efficiencies. And I do a little bit of most of it, except for some of those really cool techie things that some of the other folks on my team are much better at than I am. I do have, of course, an insurance agency background. I've worked in a couple of agencies throughout my career before coming on with Kite Technology Group. I even helped my own agency migrate to Epic a very long time ago. So wow, a really long time ago now, it seems. So I'm going to hand it off to Jenny to introduce herself. Jenny, go right ahead.
Oh, hello. I'm Jenny Honikin, and I am an agency consultant with Kite Technology Group. I'm coming up on my 2-year Kite anniversary, so can't believe it's been almost 2 years. But I'm like Lauren, came from the agency side, so I've seen Epic in action. But I also assist with migrations. I lead some optimization projects, and I live for reports. So I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, Jenny is a data cleanup star. Let's say that.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny. So, of course, we want to go over today's agenda and what we'll be reviewing today. We're going to give a little bit of an overview of the basics for those of you who may not be familiar with those. And then we're going to jump right on into some of the main applied Epic reports. Primarily today, we're going to go over some account reports, activity, applications, claims, and management. Our goal for these reporting sessions is really to help you understand what you can get out of each of these areas of reporting, because a lot of times there are reports there that you're not even aware of, or you may be wondering, why can't I get this report a certain way, or why can't I get this information from this report? So hopefully these sessions and this awesome series of webinars will help you learn more about that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the basics. We have a couple of different main areas of Epic that are included in our basics that we're going to just review today. My reports is going to be one of the first areas, your main report section, a little bit about criteria and layout, and of course, some of our best practices, because we would not present a webinar to you without giving some of our best practices. So let's talk about your My Reports area first. So of course, your My Reports seems pretty self-explanatory, but it is exactly what it is. It is just your report. So these are the layouts that you have copied over to yourself or someone else has copied to you. No one else actually has access to your My Reports unless they get your login, and we don't want to do that for security purposes. So what it's important to understand here is that this is your own customized reports. Make sure that when you are adding reports into your My Reports area that you do label them really well and even add a description as to how they are used. Oftentimes, I notice that users forget that there's a cool little comment section down at the bottom of the screen. So if you right click and do a little edit report name and comments, you can add yourself a little note in there that says, here's why I created this report and here's what I use it for. Of course, there's some ways that you can add that information in the layout as well, but that's also really helpful when you highlight on that report. You'll also want to make sure that you only edit reports in your My Reports area. You want to make sure that anything that you're playing around with, you're creating layouts on, things like that, you're editing those in the My Reports and not in those main report sections, which is the next area we're going to talk about. So your main reports in Epic are really focused on a specific set of data for each of these main report sections. So those are some of the things that we'll be going over as we touch on each of the sections individually. But these areas will only give you data from things like the account detail for something like an account report. Now, the account reports do expand a little bit beyond the account detail screen, but you wouldn't be able to combine something like account data and activity data necessarily, because those are two separate sets of data in the system. So when you're thinking about the main reports, and you're wondering what data you can get out of those areas, go to that area in a client or a policy, and that's what's going to help you find what those data sets are that you're going to want to pull into those reports, or it will help you understand more about that criteria and layout information that we'll talk about as well. Also, these are your default reports. Many of them are actually listed as default reports. It'll say this is the default report. I like how I keep changing that up, default and default. So if you go into one of those main report sections, you'll see on the right-hand side something like this. Broker list says this is the default report. This means there has been no custom layout designed for this report. This is just out of the box, exactly what you would get coming directly from Applied. Now, there are some new reports as well. Those are based on a default report. You'll notice that they do have a little asterisk on those. Make sure that you don't ever revert to default settings on those reports because they are custom layouts. But anytime you see this is the default report, you can always right click and revert to default in case somebody has gone in and updated things that they shouldn't have updated. Now, another thing that you can do is copy reports back to your main report. So if there is a report that's going to be used for the entire agency, you can click on actions and copy report from your My Reports and drop it into the main reports area. This would be for something, an example like an AR report that you've customized the layout for. Maybe it's sorted by producers. And you want to make sure that if you have a new producer come in the future, that your reports folks can access that custom layout and deliver that out to whoever the new producer is. So in that case, you can copy those custom layouts back to the main reports. That's what's going to allow others to be able to access and use those. Again, don't forget to make sure that you have really good descriptions there. Of course, the last little note here, I mentioned that there are some new reports. Those reports typically have an asterisk. I hate that word, at the end of them. If you take a look at your policy reports in Epic and you see several reports that say audit data and they have that asterisk at the end, that means you have the latest report pack. If you're in a newer version of Epic, you don't need to worry about whether or not you have this. You most likely do. However, if you activated after around November 2021, you may want to double check and make sure that you have these. If you do not, these are also new layouts. You're going to love them. Make sure you contact Applied and ask them to load those in for you. All right, I did already mention some of our best practices. I just jumped ahead a little bit there. Like I said, always make sure that you copy a main report up into your My Reports before you make any edits. That's to criteria, layouts, everything that's in that report. And again, copy that custom report back. You can use specific characters. A lot of times I see agencies use even some different abbreviations like ME for month end, MGMT for management and things like that. So those are some additional just kind of descriptions that can help you sort those reports as well, because My Reports can get really, really full after a while if you are delivering reports to different people. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Jenny for our criteria and layout.
All right. So the criteria is the way that you're going to filter the information you want to appear on the report. And a lot of people get overwhelmed with criteria and they're like, it just doesn't make sense to me. You shop online and you're actually using this concept every day when you shop online. So you go and you're looking for a pair of jeans, you might click clothing on the online shopper, and then you type in jeans or you filter through jeans. It's the same kind of concept. So when you first have your report, you literally have every piece of data in the database and you just want to kind of funnel it down. So that's your criteria. What criteria are you using to see what shows on your report? And then your layout is, how is it going to print? Like what's the report going to look like? It's the data fields and the sort that's included in the report. So that's kind of the difference between those two. And just our little warning sign there, you don't need criteria in order for the data to be on the layout. So you can pull in any data, whether or not you filtered for it or not. But you do need some data on the layout in order to be able to filter criteria.
Right, awesome.
So if you're going to modify and add your criteria, you go to the modify criteria section here. And this is where ideally it will start with a selection of all. And like I said, it's going to give you everything. And then you just go through and you funnel down. So you don't necessarily have to choose for agency if there's only one agency in your database. Don't over filter the report because sometimes that makes them crash. You just want to leave things open and get to where the data maybe starts to diverge. Maybe you only have one agency, but you have several branches. So you may want to filter just for one branch, that kind of thing. So this is also, like Lauren mentioned earlier, depending on the report type. So if you're in a book of business report, that's in the policy section, it's pulling from the policy. So just think about Epic or even pull one up and see kind of where those fields kind of lie. And that's what you're filtering from. Sometimes, like especially in this example, this report came without the account manager on it. And if you see over to the right, it's highlighted in blue. And you can actually add criteria to the report. So if you click the plus sign from here, it'll have folders with all the criteria kind of filed away, and you can add it there. So if you do add criteria, you can always delete it later. You cannot delete anything that's above that parameter page, anything from kind of the standard report. And I just want to mention too, you can't necessarily get every piece of data, but you can get most of what you need on a regular basis.
Yeah, there are some tricky little things in reports. I learned the
Mhm.
hard way digging for producer broker commission agreements a very, very long time ago. It's those irritating things that stick in your brain, those things that you worked so hard to find. And so you can pull in a producer broker commission agreement on a producer broker commission agreement report, but you can't get it on the book of business. Same area of reports, but there are some different criteria even in those specific reports that you can only filter and add to the layout.
Yeah, yeah. I just ran in that today with the verify commission agreements. You cannot pull servicing from
Mm-hmm.
that. So weird.
Yeah.
So then the next part of your report section, so you open up, you've got your criteria, you've got the layouts, and then so in the layouts, if you just double click to open that up, that's going to give you the layout of the report so you can change the look of the report. So you want to in here, if you know the shortcuts at the top, and if you hover over, it'll tell you what they are. You can align fields, make them the same size, change the spacing, center, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're wanting to make several fields one, change everything all at once, you can highlight one and then shift or control to highlight the others. And the first one that you highlight will actually have like a little, it'll have a white rectangle in it instead of a black rectangle. And that's kind of the control. That's the main one. So it's gonna have everything follow along that one. That's kind of the main field that you're going to be using. So.
Right.
Yep, and down in the bottom left-hand corner, you're gonna see these, field attributes here. And down in the field attributes, this is just everything that has to do with that piece of data, that label or whatever. The one here, it says fields. This is a total field that we've got. You can fix the font. You can fix the font color here. You can change the format. So this one's in currency. The highlight or the background is transparent, so it's just not going to show through the paper at all. But you can highlight things from here as well. You can just all of the different field attributes here. And yes, the page break and keep together options are in for the major sort fields. You can actually have the page break with every new like account manager or producer, or however you have it grouped. I got ahead of myself on the major grouping there.
That's okay. I was gonna say, yeah, don't forget that it always defaults to page break when you add a new major sort. So when your report runs and you have 4,000 pages and you're like, why is this report so long? Well, it's probably because
Mhm.
you were major sorting and page breaking on the account code or policy number.
Yep. Yep. So the major sort is actually it's a sort and a grouping. So I want to see all of Jenny's accounts together. I'm going to pull all of Jenny's accounts together, and then I'm going to see Lauren's after that. So that's your major sort, and that's how you're going to use your grouping, and you can do that on multiple levels. So I want to see all of Jenny's, and then if Jenny's working personal and commercial lines, maybe I want to do a further grouping of here's just her personal lines, now here's just her commercial lines, things like that. And then the minor sort is just like what you think of as just a regular sort. It's just going to sort A to Z or oldest date to newest date, that kind of thing. So that's the difference between that.
Okay. All right. So that does it for our layouts. Jenny, any other helpful tidbits in layouts that you would like to go over?
In layouts, no, I mean, it can be a little overwhelming and complicated, at first, but once you kind of get the idea of it, that's you'll get more comfortable with it.
Very good. And we do have I think we do have another webinar out on our YouTube channel for just a lot more in-depth review of those basics. So go check that out in case you want to go through this a little bit slower. All right, so let's talk about your delivery options. Now, when it comes to your reports, there are some really great efficiencies in your reports delivery. You do not have to run a report manually every time you want to deliver that to a user. I know sometimes there are situations where maybe you want to just wait until month end is complete before you start delivering reports. But if anything needs to go out on a regular basis, use your delivery options and schedule those reports to go out. So you want to decide how your current user is going to be set up, whether or not you're going to be generating this report, saving it directly to a folder in your computer, or whether or not you want to have that delivered to you just to be like a little reminder to say, hey, don't forget to look at this report, grabbing that snapshot in time. Other things to keep in mind are when you are actually in the printer area, you will want to backspace the printer out to get rid of that. There's no drop down and blank option there. So if that's ever driven you crazy and you've accidentally printed every single report, that's why you have to backspace out the printer if you just want to email that or generate it in PDF or Excel. And that's the next piece is that you can generate those reports in Excel, in a PDF format or CSV. Don't know why we would want CSV. We don't use that very much anymore. Somebody audited CVS the other day, I think. So you also, when you're in the browser, just another note here, anytime you generate a report, whether it's PDF or Excel or CSV, it's going to automatically save to your downloads. So that is just another thing to keep in mind. That's one of the newer features that you'll see. So this is where I was saying, make sure you backspace that out. If you do not want to print this report, you can set up a report that you're scheduling out to other users to only notify you that the report has been generated. That's when you would backspace out and check notify only on your current user. Then you can add recipients up at the top of the screen. In scheduling the reports, you can add as many users as you'd like. You just set it up so that it's going to email those reports out to them. Also, if you're going to be scheduling a lot of reports, you want to schedule those around areas or times that Epic's not going to really be used very much, just to keep the system moving efficiently, and not get anything clogged up or stuck in there. So we recommend, early hours, midnight hours, whatever the case, and schedule those a few minutes apart. Also, as mentioned earlier, make sure you meaningfully label those reports, because when you get over to job management and maybe you need to cancel and purge and then add a new report or update a report, that is going to be really hard to identify if you don't have really good labels on those. And again, make sure you cancel and purge before you make any changes to a report if you need to update a scheduled report. Making a change to a report layout wherever it's at, if it's scheduled, does not change the report that is being delivered to whoever's receiving it. You do have to cancel over in job management. That's in procedures, purge, and then you can add the scheduled delivery once more. All right, how about some marketing with reports? Jenny, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Sure. I've been trying to answer questions as much as I can. There's a lot in the Q&A. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yes.
But I'm trying to get to them and have an ear out for Lauren as well.
Oh,
Um,
and I will make a note on the Q&A. There will be some of these answers that we can answer as we are going through some of these reports. So we're going to hold those until we get to those specific sessions. But
yeah.
sections.
So for marketing with reports, and this is that marketing section, you can actually use this report and it will send out communications to a specific group of clients. So I want to see all of my people that are in a certain area, in a certain zip code or whatever. However, if you have in our neck of the woods, we have hurricanes bearing down on us in the summer, and it's almost hurricane season to start. So you could run a report based on the zip code and send out an email saying, hey, do you know that your homeowners doesn't cover flood? That kind of thing. So you can send out specific communications. I've seen people send out, oh, we have your home, but we don't have your auto. So let's send out an email to you just to let you know that we offer that as well. So you can do I did the with this, not that. Yeah. You can do the disaster prep. I'm just all over the place. I should actually read the slide. Sorry about that. So you can send out emails, and you can also send out activities. So you might want to put an activity, and we see a lot of agencies do this, to like a pre-renewal activity. So all of you run an expiration list and it will add an activity. You can also add sticky notes and things like that as well. So it's kind of an interesting area of Epic that a lot of agencies don't use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the first things first is if you're going to send an email, you want to set up the template. So you're going to go to configure email templates. Pretty simple. You just type your email in there, and you can add. The nice thing is you can add graphics. So if you create something from Canva or something like that, you can add that in there. You can link, put in hyperlinks, that kind of stuff. But you want to get your email configured from there. And then in the delivery options, just at the bottom, you want to select the send an email template, just at that very bottom section. You're going to select the sender, the template. We got a screenshot on the next screen in a minute. Any branding or signature, you want to, oh, I didn't do a screenshot of the actual thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. So you can you select your email template, and you can pick it from the list. You can actually edit from here. So if it's one that you sent out in the previous year, or you just want to tweak it just a little, you can edit the wording from here as well. And then you just want to make sure you can opt to um, attach it to the client's file so that you have a record that was sent as well. You can choose to send it to the primary contact, or if you have contact classifications, you can put it on certain contacts as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next one is we're going to talk about adding activities. So, those pre-renewal activities or generating a sticky note. You can do all of those kind of things. You can check the box to include people that have said do not market. So if you do have a storm prep coming through, then you can send that to them. It's not a marketing message; it's just an informational message. And then the other thing is you can actually preview or edit the result if you check that box, and that will, when you run the report, kind of put it in a holding place in the marketing preview section of reports. So you can go there, open it up, and then kind of look through the list. And if there's somebody you don't want to send it, you don't want to send it to, then you can uncheck that. And even though they showed up on the report, you might not want to send them the message. So you can do that as well. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And Jenny, I think you just answered one of the questions that we had
Oh,
about sending an email out to all of your clients. Yes, the marketing area would be where you'd want to do that.
mhm,
And like Jenny said, you want to make sure that you have that primary contact set up, make sure that your primary preferred contact method is configured as well. If you have an email address in there, but their preferred contact method isn't email, that can create a little bit of a conflict. But
mhm.
Epic also will, again, show you that marketing preview, and it will kick out a little report to say, here's all the ones that failed. So if you decided to just push through email for anybody that has an email address, it'll generate a cool little report for you that says, hey, here's the ones that didn't work.
Mhm. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
And I would like to add, if you have subscribed to applied marketing automation, that's definitely a better process for sending out emails. This is just something if you don't have applied marketing automation.
Yes, exactly. Okay,
And we're
very good.
here for reports and not marketing automation.
Jenny's a huge fan of marketing automation. I
I
am as
am.
well. She's a fangirl though. It's a great
Mhm.
thing to
Yeah.
have. But even if you don't have AMA, you do still have these options in Epic that are
Mhm.
definitely underused, I would say for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's jump on into some common issues you might be having with your reports. Again, just still sticking with the basics. You may have an overfilter if you are using too much criteria, using incorrect dates. So be sure to only use specific criteria that's needed. If you're getting junk out of your reports, you may have junk in your Epic trunk. Haha, I used it. So that's
Yeah.
one thing to keep in mind is if you do have missing data fields, you're not going to get good reports out of Epic. And that's even going to apply to some of the report types that we're going to talk about today when it comes to things like the account reports. Missing servicing roles can create issues if you're not fully transacting or
Mhm.
doing all of your accounting in Epic. You can't get good financial or production reports. And then, workflows and policy statuses could have an impact on that as well. So some of the ways that you could fix those reports issues would be with implementing standardized workflows. Know what your people are doing, expect what you expect in order to get the appropriate data into and out of your system. Make sure you checked all of the configuration areas. Interface could be updating policy statuses in a way that you don't want it to. Use your required and desired fields to make sure that data is getting entered in. You can also turn on some settings for things like producer broker commission requirements, commission and premium calculation. But all of these things work together to get you better data as long as you implement the right workflows. Also, make sure that you're auditing your employees on a regular basis. Know whether or not they are completing those workflows properly. Use some of these reports that say audit workflow. There's a reason why they say that to make sure that
Yeah.
your data is being completed on a regular basis. Another thing that users like to do is run the reports in Excel. So you can just sort and filter away. Look at Jenny's big old smile. She loves Excel reports.
I
We
do.
love pretty layouts and reports too, but she is an Excel like expert. So that is also a great way to, just pull the data out if you're more of an Excel user. And then another last thing to keep in mind on your reports is this is not a quick process. If you have bad data in your reports, it's going to take some time unless you're outsourcing it to a VA or an RPA, that's robotic process automation, aka a bot. If you're not outsourcing it and you're counting on your users to just update things as they're touching them, it's going to take about a year. Think about a whole cycle of policies renewing in the system. So You have to be patient unless you have the ability to outsource some of that correction.
Yeah. And I would add that college is getting ready to release for the summer, so it's a good time to hire college students to do some data cleanup for sure. Before we move on, Stella had asked about the criteria, and it was on the slide. But the criteria for your book of business report, if you want something that you want a list of everything that's in force today, that's always effective open through today and expiring tomorrow through open. And that will give you everything that's in force today, regardless of the length of the policy. If it's in force today, it's in force right now.
Good. All right. Awesome. I'll briefly go over the main reports. Want to make sure that you understand, just back to that main reports basic before we jump into all of the nitty gritty of those. These are your canned reports that you don't have to modify for use. You can just update the criteria, or you can copy those over to your My Reports. And again, understand that as we go through each of these areas, you're going to be limited on the data in those areas in order to see what you want on those specific reports. I had a great question from someone earlier today. Can we get the comments on a report? In account detail, that's a data field, but it's still not available on a report. So even if there are data fields on certain areas of Epic, those still might not be able to be pulled into the report. So you want to get really familiar with, like I said, what's in those areas, and also go through those data fields in the criteria or layout. All right, Jenny, you want to take it away with your account reports?
Yes. So account reports. So you think about where, if you're looking at the account, you're looking at the account detailed screen. So this is the data you're going to be able to be looking at. You're going to be able to look for the client. You can look at client accounts. You can look at company accounts because they're all considered accounts, broker accounts, employee accounts, vendor, finance company, and other interests. So think about the account detail of all of those different types of accounts, and that's what we're going to be able to report on. So here's some ideas for account
Sorry,
reports.
I
Oh
gotta
yeah,
click yours.
that's fine. I'm like, oh, did I cover that already? No, I didn't. So you can create a client list to export an email list. If you're using Constant Contact, things like that, it's perfect for that. You can run a report where the email field is blank for contacts, because the account will also include the contacts screen as well. You can report on agency defined categories for marketing purposes. You can review company broker or PRBR commission agreements if you're running that based on the company or broker account or employee account as well. Review the configuration for accuracy. You can find unemployed employees that maybe you need to inactivate. They're still active in your system. And you can do like data review on anything for cleanup. So there's a lot in there that you can do. You can also look for um, accounts with no longer having active policies, so that if you need to inactivate those as well, and that makes your running, if you keep your accounts inactivated as they leave your agency, then that keeps your account list current and easier to run this report. Sometimes you have to get a little tricky if you're not keeping that piece of data cleaned up. You have to run a policy report instead, so
Yes.
put it into Excel.
Exactly. So I'm going to jump over into the account reports now. We do
Yeah.
have some custom reports
Mm-hmm.
dropped in here, aka 2012 holiday party demo. Wow, we need to do some reports.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's based on the employee list, so this is,
yes,
your
and it does have
your
a very good
internal.
description.
Yeah.
So, these areas that are in your account reports, think about things like the agency defined categories. That's another area that you can report on. Agency defined category is one of those items, though, that's listed at the account level, and it's listed over at the policy level. So you want to think about where that data needs to be entered in order to get it out of a specific report. So you might want like an agency defined category set at the account level because you want to send out certain communication and correspondence to your clients. Holiday cards, birthday cards, Christmas cards, whatever the case is, or holiday gifts. or if you want to run a list, like we mentioned earlier, a client list that shows a specific type of client. Maybe you have certain folks that are in the Builders Association or whatever the case is. So agency defined categories is an area that you can customize yourself, and then you can run a report based on that information. Some of the other things that we use in here a lot for auditing data is the commission agreements areas. So if you're looking to see, do we have current, updated, working producer commission agreements? This is a report that is really helpful to show you that information. So if it's, maybe somebody says, hey, you know what, I'm trying to add this commission agreement to this policy, but it's not working for some reason. It's probably a good idea to go and review those producer broker commission agreements. Now, keep in mind, you have commissionable brokers, internal, and then you have external brokers that might be your PPEs. So make sure that you're editing your criteria here. If you want to see brokers at all on this report, you might not even pay any brokers commissions. And then you'll also want to keep in mind your agreement effective date. You can use your current book of business dates if you want to see what that agreement effective date is. And then you've got things like the line type, line status, etc. So that's a great report for just reviewing that data. Same thing on the company commission agreements. One thing that we find very often is that agencies do not have company commission agreements on all of their carriers. So when a user goes to click that default commission agreement checkbox, they're not able to pull anything in. So this is a great report to run to see what are your current agreements, are they set up properly, and what carriers are actually missing agreements. Things like your contact list, you can use those contact classifications to be able to pull out certain information. Again, think back to maybe an event that you're about to sponsor. I keep going back to the Builders Association because we used to do like a golf tournament for the Builders Association every year. So in that case, any clients that that are in that Builders Association, you might want to send them out a marketing email that says, hey, Bob, I'm going to be at the Builders Association golf tournament next Saturday. Make sure you come out and say hey. So, just having those positive points of contact. There are many other areas here as well, but just keep in mind that these are your account level reports. So you're not going to be able to really include a whole lot of information like policy detail, nothing, servicing roles at the policy level, no activity information, because this is really your account level information. We did have a question, and I held this one off until I got to this specific area. There's a question about, is there a report for listing the company contracts? So I'm going to mark your question as done. I cannot answer that question right offhand. So I would go into the company list and jump over into the layouts and open up this layout area. And this is where I would look to see, is there a company contract data field available in this specific report? If there is not, then I know the answer is no. Sometimes those things that are a little bit deeper into the, the data itself are not entirely available. So you would want to think about where that company contract is located, and it's typically there on your billing screen. So I'm going to just open this up real quick. There we go. So we've got a couple of different options here. No company contract here, but guess what? Payable contract has its own folder. So yes, you absolutely can pull in all of these types of data fields for your payable contract. So when all else fails, open up the layout and go look for that data field and see if it's going to be there. All right, great questions. So we are going to move on. Jenny, are there any questions that you would like to answer live before we move on?
I have not seen any. Like I said, I'm trying to get to them, but I don't see any live ones yet.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. So let's jump on into our next reports, which are going to be some of the most fun reports. And that is your activity reports. So Jenny, you want to get us started on those activity reports?
Yeah, so when you're in the activity reports, just think about the activity itself. What can you see on this screen? Then more than likely you're going to be able to report on that. So it is going to pull some account detail or policy detail just because most activities are associated to those as well.
Mhm.
And yeah.
There we go. Trying to click, I swear.
Yeah. So when you're running your activity reports, you got to remember, how are you configured? You have system generated activities, you have manual activities, you have download activities. Do you want to see all of those? Or are you looking for specific activities? So what are you looking for with this report? Epic likes to generate a lot of activities, and you could run this report and it would just be pages and pages and pages of paper. So think about what you're looking for, and then keep documentation. We're always about documenting workflows, documenting how you're going to do this. How are you going to use these activities? We have a spreadsheet that we like to work from, and we keep track that way. But get your best practices. Have people using their follow-up dates. The idea behind an activity. I know this isn't an activity work webinar, but the idea behind an activity is that you're going to use it to document something happened. I need to make a note in the system. You're going to use it to follow up. So I need to check back in a couple of days and follow up, or you want to be able to report on it, or all three. So think about why you're using this activity and make that specific. So with the activity reports, we see a lot of agencies run an activity report every day and just see, are they using the workflows correctly? This is our established process in our agency. Are they using the activities that we expect them to, or are they just randomly putting in a call activity, that kind of thing? Um, the activity reports will show you overdue activities, so you can see if users are just not working their activities. The idea of the activity that are used for follow-up is, there's your home screen. This is your to-do list for the day. If you can't get to it, you can push it to the next day or to a day when you are going to be able to get to it. But you don't want to keep them and let them be expired for days and days and days, or years in some of the cases that we've seen. So you can use the activity reports to kind of keep a handle of that. Um, you can run reports. We call the ATCH activity the tattletale activity. So if people are just adding to the policy or the account level and not to an existing workflow activity, Epic's going to create this activity. So you can catch that. And then you can kind of look and see, based on some of these activity reports will break them down by user, and you can see who's entering a lot of activities, and what is what's kind of the workload of that. I will put a caveat in there. The activity reports will only show you what was entered that day. So if someone's entering a note on an existing activity, it's not going to show up in the report. So don't fire anybody because they didn't enter enough activities. That you have to look at more than one piece of information. And then the last one that we love is the carrier or quote hit ratio report. This is in the new report pack. I will show you it in a minute, or show you where it is at least. But this is really neat when you're working through your marketing module, or if you're using a quoting activity. It will actually give you a hit ratio for each carrier if you're closing these activities as successful or unsuccessful, and a reason. So that's the other thing. You have to have that as part of your process in order to use that report.
Right.
So some of our sample reports, there's an open activities analysis. That one's really great. It will show you all the open activities. It will show you how many days it's been open. It will show you, yep, there it is. It will show you how many days it's been open, and then it will show you how many days it's overdue. So an activity, if I am following up on an X date activity and I put that in, today to follow up next year, when we get around to next year, my due date is next year, but it's going to be 365 days old, but it's not overdue yet. So I'm getting to that. Oh, you're showing. Good.
I am. I gotcha. Unless you want to share screen, I was just doing things for you.
No, 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 no.
Just
You
being
can
fan
be my
of over here.
driver. You can be my driver.
Now I will, spoiler alert here. One thing I like to do on these activity reports, let me jump back over to the layout. Um, And yes, I did this in the main reports area because this is how everybody wants to see it, because that's what I decided. So, so in these reports, your detail is always going to pop up first, but they have some really neat summary reports too. So what I like to do is copy the detail to the end of the report, and you can do that by doing actions, copy layout to this report and click finish, and it'll drop a copy at the end. Then you can just delete the first part. So you can move that detail basically to the end of the
Mhm.
report because there's no cool little buttons that go up and down in this one, unfortunately. So in this report specifically, you can see, go ahead, Jenny, I'll give it back to you.
Oh, yeah. So here's the open activity analysis report. So we see Michael here, and Michael just has one open activity, and Michael has had this activity open for 4,824 days, and he was supposed to follow up on it 4,809 days ago. My guess is Michael doesn't work here anymore.
Mhm.
These activity reports can really give you a lot of good information. I would go and find that activity. There's a detailed screen that a layout of this report that you can go and find exactly which activity is. Make sure that it's been taken care of. It was a quote request from, what is that, 12 years ago? I
Yeah.
can't do the math in my head right now. So you can see how old these are, and this is our Kite demo database, and we're not working activities. But this will break it down by the activity code, so I can see who's doing what, who's not following up on what. And then that screen that or the layout that we just saw lists the people, and then the major sort is the person, and then the second major sort is the activity code. So I can see Loretta's using call and client note a lot instead of a workflow activity. And then when you go down to the next section of the layout, it's just literally how many activities, what's the average day open and the average day overdue. So consulting, you're doing a great job. Everybody else, you're fired.
Consulting might have cleaned up all of her activities earlier today. We might have had a much longer list.
Yeah, and then here's your detailed screen so you can see. I like this one because it shows you in red if they're overdue, it's black if they're not overdue. And you can actually, if you get super fancy, you can configure it to do that on the other layouts too. But this is supposed to be an introduction class, so we won't do that. But you can see each individual client and then the notes, the activity notes as well.
Mhm. And we did have a question. We had a couple of questions on activity reports. I will say, so one question is there a report to track employee productivity? And
Uh-huh.
yes, basically you can use, now it's not, again, this is not everything that you're going to want to see from what your
Mhm.
employee is doing. You know, this doesn't show you all of the attachments that they've entered or all of the policies that they've marketed or things like that. But if you've got really good workflows configured, workflow activities established, then you should ideally be able to look at either this open activities analysis report or back to the other one. Oops, clicky fingers, Lauren, which is the activity analysis by who owner. And this report would show you what's been going on, you know, what
Mhm.
activities have actually been entered. You'll notice here, I don't have any criteria other than date time entered. So in this case, a lot of times I'll look at this from like a month level. Just kind of depends on the information that you're actually looking for. But both of these reports can be used interchangeably for all types of things. If you just
Mhm.
modify a little bit of the criteria, you could see things like open cancel for non-pays. You could see all of the non-renewal activities. You could manage X date activities.
Mhm.
See what your employees are actually doing. And that's why we say, so here's a list of all of the activities. That's why we say it's such a good best practice to make sure that you've established those workflows and you know what each of these activities is going to mean. Because again, like Jenny said earlier, I don't know what you did if you put in a call activity. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
you have a phone call. You could have said, "Hey, how's your mom and them bringing you some chocolate chip cookies tomorrow?" Or you could have had a long, drawn out conversation about a complex endorsement that needs to be added to a policy for a contract that your client has. So, there's all different types of things that those activities could mean. But if you don't have meaningful activities established in configuration, you're not going to be able to get a lot of good data out of this report. Another question was real quick, activity reporting using work groups. What's the best way to pull a report to show every time an employee adds a note to an activity so that you can track their actually work performed in a day? Workload report does not seem to help with this. I think Jenny kind of mentioned that earlier, that you're not going to be able to see that, who entered however many activity notes today. You're going to have to look at that as a whole, to see the total volume of those notes that they are doing.
If you're good with Excel, you can download the activity report into Excel and it will time and date stamp every note that was entered. You just can't do it from Epic. And then you have to manipulate Excel a little bit. It's not really a good, easy way to get it. I see most agency owners use this and they'll run it every day just to see what happened in the agency and also to see, was there a client, a VIP client or somebody that they want to do a personal touch for? It's not just making sure that workflows are all right. There's different reasons why you would run an activity report as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And before we go too much further, we are going to jump over into application reports real quickly, but a couple of folks asked, the activity analysis reports not showing up in your main reports. That means you do not have the latest report pack from Applied. So make sure you contact Applied and request that that report gets added to your database. It is not specific to desktop or browser. It's just a report pack that was released. But you do have to contact Applied to have that loaded if you don't have those in your system right now.
And they load it in usually the same day. It doesn't take long at all.
Yes, exactly. All right, so our next slide is application reports. I know we're cutting it close on time here, but we will try to make sure we get to all of our reports today. We just have so many wonderful questions. Great job, guys. So this was my personal funny, application reports. What's in application reports? Not much. Would you like to see? Yeah, I definitely would like to see. So it's meant to be a funny, but a lot of times folks think, oh, application reports. I can get schedules of drivers and I can get limits that we have on all of our work comp policies and I can get all of, no, you cannot pull that information. You are very limited on the application reports to personal auto applications and residential homeowners applications. So that is not what you think is as exciting as it may sound. It is pretty limited. If you go in and just run a sample personal home or auto report, you'll see some of the data that's available in there. Make sure that you sort it or put in your criteria that you want it by account, not by policy. Or if you do by policy, make sure you put in effective expiration dates. Otherwise, you'll get a whole bunch of stuff in that report. So don't forget to change your criteria before previewing. But you can use this to really look at, missing data, incorrect data. Maybe use it for marketing purposes. If somebody's got, high value cars, or maybe they've got really old cars and you want to say, hey, if you're looking to buy a car soon, don't forget to call us and update your insurance or something to that effect. So be creative, but just understand that there's not a whole ton of information that is in this report for you. It is not going to give you the world of application detail. The only way to get all application detail out of Epic would be with the use of BDE, bulk data extract, or your new data lake and some Google techie things. Yep. That's not my area. So we're going to move on then to our claims reports. All right, so claims reports is pretty straightforward as well. You've got claims data fields if you're looking for open and closed claims, maybe the payments that have been made on claims, adjuster information, types of claims, loss ratio. That is actually a report that's in there. If you're not managing claims really heavily in your agency, the claims reports may not be as beneficial to you. So you may be looking for something more along the lines of a cleanup report, like Do we have a whole bunch of open claims in our system that we need to close out and clean up? Or you may want to use it just for high impact claims. So think about, I want to make sure I add a claim in the system and stay on top of it because somebody's house burnt down, or there was a massive hurricane, and whatever the case is. I'm really using hurricanes. I'm from Eastern North Carolina, so that's why. Another, I was in a web, not a webinar, but a presentation at AppliedNet one time, and somebody in the front row said, or you might want to make sure that you deliver this claims report, this new claims report to your producer. So when they're hanging out at their buddy on the golf course and their buddy just had a major claim, they know what they're getting ready to talk about. I'm sure that didn't come from experience at all. You can also use these for pre-renewal information. So if you're looking to see, again, if you are consistently getting that claims data entered into Epic, whether it's by download or by manual entry, you can use those for your pre-renewals as well. On the renewals manager, you even have a claims area that you can review to see all of those claims as well if you wanted to do that outside of the reports. Think about maybe you want to have that open report go out to your staff on a regular basis. Maybe you have a centralized claims department and you want to notify your account managers that, hey, this claim was just reported last night or yesterday. So a couple of different things that you can do with that one. Again, not a very flashy report, but it is a pretty neat one that is available. Jenny, looks like you have an answer to a question on the claims reports.
Yes, run the report for a specific period. Yes, you should be able to add the criteria. This is Jose is asking, should be able, either you can run date of loss. That's one of your criteria. Date entered, that's the date entered in Epic. Date reported, so that's the date it was reported. And then you should be able to add like policy effective date and expiration date as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can run the report for a specific period, just depending on what you're wanting to look at. And that's the biggest challenge with reports is you kind of know what you're looking at, but you don't really know until you start running them and you run them wrong. And then you're like, oh wait, no, not speaking from experience at all.
We wouldn't know so much if we didn't speak from experience, right,
Yeah,
Jenny?
that is how you learn though. That's how you learn.
That is a really good point to make. Those are three totally different data fields. So date of loss could be today. It could have been yesterday. It could have been a couple of weeks ago when I had a leak upstairs in my bathroom and it came through my ceiling in my kitchen. Or it could be the date entered or reported.
So the claim reports, there's also a date closed down there too. So that's the date that the claim was closed in Epic. I wanted to circle back because somebody did ask about productivity reports, and I know that's always the question that people ask on, when they're asking about reports. How can I check up and check in and see that my people are doing what I want them to do? And I know we're running up on time, but this is the last section, the management reports. And this is where a lot of you all ask the questions. The management reports, let me get my PowerPoint going. So this is more behind the scenes data. So it's not necessarily one location in Epic. It's things like unrouted attachments, confidential client access, who has access to those clients, all the security settings. Are your people inheriting or have you given individual access to an area of an Epic or the security group? SMS processing, so you can run a report if you have SMS in Epic. And then also login attempts. And this is one that a lot of people like to use to manage, just to get an idea. So with the unrouted attachments, you can just monitor and see what's still out there, what's unrouted. You can go to that area in Epic, and that's probably more ideal, but just know you can run a report on it. And then you can review access to confidential clients. So if you have that client that you've marked as confidential, it's a local politician or a celebrity or VIP of some sort, and you have given access to only certain people in the agency to be able to view their account, then you can run reports and see who has access to what. And then you can review security settings in the security groups and for individual users. Side note, it's best practice to always put somebody in a security group, even if the security group is just for one area of Epic and it's just one person going in there, because you never know who's going to have to go in there later or you want to add to as well. The user login report is going to review logins in your database. So you could run it for today and see who logged in and what time they logged in. Again, you have to be careful because they may have had a meeting and they didn't log into Epic until later, but a lot of people like to see kind of what time did they log in. It doesn't tell you what time they logged out. Just what time they logged in. And so if they do log out for lunch or get kicked out and log back in, you might see 2 or 3. And then there's a verify policy renewal commission agreements that I just realized was there today. It's really cool. When you renew a policy, it will tell you what commission agreement went on the policy and why. So that was kind of cool. All right, so we still have a lot of questions out here. I'm going to go and look. Somebody said which browser is better to use Epic online. I always use Edge. I've used Chrome with it as well, but we use Edge. We're a Microsoft shop here, so that's what we use. Nancy, you asked if you can do a report on the comments section in attachments, and you cannot. Most of the comments sections are not reportable. They're editable and not reportable, but they're nice to have. So keep using them, but just know if you want a permanent record, part of the permanent record, you need to put it in activity or in an actual field in Epic. Any plans to develop a log out report? That would be nice. We meet with Applied once a month, and I'll put that in there for you. So I'm going to move on to the next screen.
We really appreciate you for joining us today. Thank you, Jenny, for helping me with our awesome presentation of report. Again, if you would like to learn more about Kitech's IT and consulting services, please feel free to reach out to us in any of the ways listed here. We would be happy to meet with you and learn more about your agency's technology and or consulting needs. As mentioned earlier, we will be sharing the recording. Don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube. Maybe we'll be cool and we'll have a TikTok someday. Finally, at the end of this webinar, there will be a survey to complete. So we would really appreciate your feedback. We also like to know about future topics that you might be interested in. Thank you again, guys, for attending this presentation. We look forward to seeing you next time.